More than half of the world's population lives in urban areas, and 1/3 of these people are living in slums. Generation after generation, people living in places like this are stuck in chronic poverty, without any proper safety nets to protect them from sinking deeper into destitution. And with fluctuating food prices, often it is difficult to determine when a situation has moved from chronic poverty to a humanitarian crisis. In Nairobi, for instance, 60% of urban residents live in slums that lack the most basic amenities, such as clean running water, proper hygiene, and sanitation facilities or sewerage systems. An average daily income in the slums is from 100 to 200 Kenyan shillings. Most of this is spent on food and other needs, such as housing, water, school, and health. And because of high living costs, slum dwellers sometimes go into debt to buy food when times are hard, and this could indicate a crisis is either on its way or has already arrived. This is Irene Mwende Mutua. She is 30 years old and has a physically challenged toddler. Her husband left her after their son was born. She says the condition caused stress on the marriage. Her child was severely malnourished, and to save him, she registered at a feeding program at a local church in Korogocho.
Tunakula mara moja. Juu si tunakula kwa hoteli. Ukipata hiyo foto na mnamtelea twende kwa hoteli mnakula. Na pengine jioni juu ya huyu. Juu hiyo ndawa anakuambia asikunywe kama akuli.
Food is a basic need, and any slight increase in prices here may cause an emergency. When there are high cases of malnutrition in children under 5 years, the youth tend to drop out of school and beg or scavenge for food. Parents also buy food on credit to sustain their families, and some fall into criminal activity to make ends meet.
The main challenge that we see in the broader program, which includes these 3 arms that I was talking about earlier, the social protection arm, the livelihoods development arm, and then the detection of emergencies arm. I think if we look at that, we see a vast lack of understanding that the urban context needs its own special approach. If you go by rural contexts, you cannot use the same thresholds and the same triggers for a response that you would in Marsabit as you do in Nairobi.
There are 22,000 acutely malnourished children under 5 years of age in Nairobi alone. That is 5.7%. But current emergency response parameters based on rural context would mean an emergency wouldn't be declared in Nairobi until 15% or 60,000 children are malnourished.
Sasa mafikirio yangu naona mtoto akikuwa mkubwa na apone. Hapo utaweza kwenda shule na uende kutafuta kazi. Uweze kuajiriwa. Lakini kwa sasa ni ngumu kwangu, nimekuelezea. Kila Monday napeleka huyu clinic. Alafu daktari anakuambia, hii growth ni kwambia inaitwa hormone, anakuambia mtoto asianguke na asilie na asikuwe na stress, which means uweze kunuka kwa mbepikia.
This is Joseph Kunuthia Ngigi. He is 41 and has 4 children. He scavenges through the Mukuru slum looking for food leftovers to feed pigs. This is his job. Normally he makes just 200 shillings a day. Some days he makes nothing. His family depends on 1 meal a day or none at all. When times are tight, he says, he sends his kids to friends' houses, hoping they might just have a tiny bit extra to share. Joseph's house is like so many here. With skyrocketing prices and little hope of more of an income, these people are the most vulnerable. If civil unrest, disease, or any other natural disaster should occur, these are the people who would find themselves at the front line of devastation.
Sasa nafikanga takati unaona hata sio lazima hata uwe duniani. Sasa zama maisha magumu sana, yenye shida na dhiki nyingi sana.
Joseph is saving his money and plans to start a business so he can pull his family from the endless cycle of poverty.
Tuseme watu wenye wanaishi kwa slums ni watu wangefaa kuangaliwa sana. Juu wako na mashida mingi sana. Juu wakai kama watu wenye wako kwa ma estate. Tuko na shida nyingi sana. kimwili, kama ni matibabu hayo hatuyapati kwa njia ile ya urahisi. Wana shida kama ni shule nazo school fees tunabahatisha. Kama sasa tungebadilishiwa at least maisha kidogo, tungekuwa watu poa sana. Sasa tunastruggle sana na hiyo maisha.
Concern Worldwide's indicator development for the surveillance of urban emergencies, or IDSU, is trying to determine these characteristics in urban slums. Because of the changing dynamics in the slums, data should be obtained to give the actual picture, and as a result of the data collection, an early response can be initiated as soon as a crisis is spotted, and this is something new in Kenya. Through IDSU, Concern is meeting the challenge by developing and testing new indicators for food security, health, access to water and sanitation, and how households are negatively coping with stress. Concern wants to understand the urban-specific thresholds and cutoffs, which will improve how the world responds to urban crises for the most vulnerable. Because these are informal settlements, there is little or no investment. The land these people live on is often owned by the government, and sometimes these small houses are illegally let. Social services, if they are present, aren't ever enough for the growing population.
For slow onset emergencies, we don't necessarily have a framework for understanding when large amounts of the people are going into severe hunger and when under 5 children are suffering from malnutrition. Often people have anecdotal information for when that might be happening, but there's no hard data to know when that's happening and to what extent that's happening in the informal settlements and slums of Nairobi. So what IDSU looks to do is to collect data on a routine basis to track over time when that's happening.
Concern Worldwide has worked in the slums since 2005. One area that provides assistance is the cash transfer program. The money is given to beneficiaries for a period of time to help them meet their food needs and essential requirements. Cash transfers work in cases where actual food aid would not.
Sharing information with the community, I think we see a lot of progress there because people in the community can get access to the information that we're collecting from them and use it for their own benefits, to understand how more withdrawal of children from school during a given time can be a negative for their community, or how insecurity might be rising in a community and how they might seek to address it. So while we have interest in developing this for the development and humanitarian community, we also understand that the community themselves are also stakeholders in what the data is saying, and then also doing something about it.
Concern wants to bridge the gap between humanitarian and development aid by inviting other stakeholders to join hands in tackling urban emergencies so that the poorest and most in need families that are in actual crisis get all the support they need, regardless of the overall prevailing conditions. Thresholds to emergency situations need to be redefined by policymakers and stakeholders if lives are to be saved in urban areas like these.